welcome to the Oh So Spurs podcast. Johnny and I are here to provide you with a philosophical overview of what's happening at our beloved Spurs this week. We've reflected on that Thomas Frank the Engine interview. Thomas Frank the Engine, you know what I mean? Can he be our very own flying Scandinavian steam train? Lastly, and most importantly though, we will cover our members' questions. And yes, we have seen the news that Spurs are set to sign Carl Walker-Peters, and we'll explain why that actually kind of makes sense, even though a lot of you may be thinking it's a little bit underwhelming. But it's all to do with club-grown status. Johnny, the interview's broken, the new era has begun, and we've decided to look forward with optimism and reserve judgment until sufficient time has passed and someone has been given a chance to prove himself. The Frank engine has arrived. What do you make of the first interview?
Frank interview?
Yeah,
no, I enjoyed it because we were waiting for it for quite a long time, I guess. I mean, there are interesting... The way that they edited the silly little sort of 10-15 second video that was on social media, that was pretty shocking, all right, when it's got sort of horror movie vibes and he's coming out of the shadows and there's even the sound effects were like, you're waiting for Boris Karloff to appear or something. So that wasn't the best piece of choreography I've ever seen. But in terms of the interview and the sort of snippets of him going around, there was a slightly longer version of him going around and seeing various parts of the training ground and everything. And I guess there's that interview and there was the Levy Ventukasham, the
Vinay Ventukasham.
Ventukasham, thank you. The two interviews sort of coming a few days apart were good because it's been quite a long time since we've heard anything. And it was obviously probably about a week, really, wasn't it, after Frank was appointed. I mean, there wasn't anything in it that was particularly different from all of the vibe that we've got from all of the research we've been doing and all of the clips we've been watching over the previous, since the appointment was confirmed and before that when speculation was rife. I mean, the sort of character that he has, for me, there wasn't anything that made me have any more doubts. I know that maybe of the two of us, I'm the exception from you on that front, but I mean, I know we all, well, almost all of us are now sort of looking forward. We may have had different ideas from Daniel Levy and the board on what happened with Postecoglou, but the fact is, I think we've got a manager who's come in here and he's spoken on camera, very excited to be at the club. He's got a personality that I think has got key similarities as well as key differences to Postecoglou. I think I've said to you before, he talks about risk taking, which may or may not be actually proven in his history. I think that it's a little bit of a risk. Some people are saying it's a safe option as an appointment because he's kind of this sort of mid-table guy. I mean, the fact is he has overachieved consistently at Brentford. He's got second lowest wage bill in the league and he's consistently finishing in the top half or mid-table top half. And I think the traits that he has, for me, why I feel confident about him and what I only saw further confirmation of, in my opinion, in the video was that he's a calm character. He's a very direct communicator. He's obviously a very smart guy. I think his sort of philosophy that we've looked at before, the path idea of passion, attitude, togetherness and hard work, those sort of elements will help him kind of forge good relationships throughout the club, particularly with the players, which is obviously so important. He communicates really clearly. I think he's shown in Brentford how he's built trust. And I think one of the differences people would argue is that sets him most apart from Postecoglou is the sort of I suppose the sort of tactical side of things. He's maybe a little bit less entrenched than Ange. We were never subscribing to the view that Ange didn't have a plan B, but I do think that there's a lot of evidence for Frank making a lot of adjustments as the game goes on. And I do think that, he's excited to be at the club. I thought what we saw in the video was pretty refreshing. You thought a little bit differently in terms of his kind of demeanor.
I thought of how to explain it better. I think we've all seen a TV series or a movie where some character walks in and like they're normally on a date with someone. So let's just say some guy's on a date with a lady or whoever, or other way around, it doesn't really matter. But they're trying to play it really cool. And then they like go to like touch something on the shelf, acting like they've seen it loads before. and then they like knock it off and like ooh, 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 and like stumble. I kind of got a couple of those moments where he touched the microphone and it like moved, didn't expect to move. Yep, that's right. That's good. That'll do. And then he like walks over to the plunge pool, touched it. Yeah, that's about the right temperature. As if he has any idea what the right temperature of that pool should be. There were just a couple of moments, but I think if you were being more positive about it, and the true situation is probably just that Brentford's facilities are probably like, he probably walked into the Spurs dining room and thought, well, this is nice facilities, cool. Where's do I go home now? Like, no, this is just the canteen. You've got 7 acres, so he needs to get on the golf cart to go to your office. He's like, what would you like? It's just the scale of the whole thing. I think just it looked like he was
He said
awestruck
he'd been
by it.
there before, though. He didn't. He said he'd been there years before. There's no context given or anything like that.
True.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like he's 51, I think, maybe now, or 52 or something like that. And so he's like, I don't know, like, unless he's been living in a cave, that he'd be so overwhelmed. I mean, clearly Spurs have got this amazing
It was
facility.
amazing, though. I think I would be awestruck.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, but you would, because you've not been working like professional, like Premier League football for the last 6 years. But I mean, I know
that is his to use. Like, he must be like, this is all at my disposal.
Yeah. I don't know. I think you're doing him a little disservice in terms of his sort of being overly wowed. I'm sure you couldn't not be impressed, but I think he's got enough confidence in himself to see past the sort of shininess of the whole thing and hopefully utilize it for the benefit of the team. I think that's one of the other things about one of the guests on one of their pods in the last week or so talked about alignment. I think it might have been Jay Harris actually when he was talking about alignment being a word that we're going to hear a lot more of. He might have even said it on the View from the Line. Anyway, that came through quite strongly between the two videos, between the Venkatesh, is that right? And,
Venkatesh, yeah.
And Levy with the sort of the departure. You were talking with Joe about that too. The departure in terms of the sort of narrative and the discussion about what Spurs are now beginning to actually communicate openly in terms of ambition. And Thomas Frank wasn't shying away from that in his interview. And I thought that was interesting because obviously Levy and Venkatesh were talking about, they want to win Premier League and they want to win the Champions League. Some people might say, well, that's inviting undue pressure. Other people say, well, we're now kind of like actually listening to the fans. They're listening to the fans and they're being a little showing a bit more clarity. But whatever, I thought it was at least positive, and I guess he's not going to do anything differently from that. But Thomas Frank was, he was sort of backing that up with his own language and saying that he is ambitious and he wants to make the fans happy, that he's recognising the contribution of Ange, saying that Ange is a legend forever at the club, which is true, and that he wants to build on that. So I guess it's like Levy saying about harnessing that and maintaining it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and like this pod format, our one, like the main one where we chat openly, is the one where I can probably just be completely myself and my opinions. Because this isn't about. This episode is more about like our honest view on the club and how we feel, whereas the other ones, a lot of them are kind of more on the educational, like let's just focus on the facts, not feelings. But
yeah,
like I do feel everything in that interview was like if I was advising Levy, or any fan I think with Brain Cell was advising Levy, and they would say, and Vinay is a very smart guy who's advising Levy, so you would say, you need to stop shying away from saying we want to win trophies. Just, is that your goal, Daniel? Do you want to win something? Yeah. But not the Audi Cup, right? The Premier League. Well, the Audi Cup and the Premier League. Okay. Well, you need to say it. Stop looking at your shoes. Look at the camera. I know it's uncomfortable for you, but they will respect you more for saying it. Yeah. And he's been talked into. He's gone, okay, it's really outside my comfort zone. I really don't like the public stuff. Let's do it. Okay, I do want to win it. That is my ambition. Right now, you've said it. There's a bit more. There's in the short term, that's going to take some weight off your shoulders, but in the medium to long term, it's going to put more weight on your shoulders because you've got to deliver now. We've got to deliver, but don't worry about it. Between you, me, and Johan, we've got this. You've built the stadium. You've given us the tools. Let us do what we need to do here. We'll choose the manager. We'll do this. And I feel like he's done everything. They've done everything you could ask of us to do. They've got a manager who plays decent football to watch. We've followed data, not emotion. Just done a video that'll drop on Monday, by the way, about how much we spend under each manager. By the way, I don't want to give it away, but I'll give away one stat. we looked at the numbers of over the last 4 years, how much the managers have been backed. Well, backed over the last 12 years, but particularly in the last 4 years, the numbers are stark. And we did that by looking at the total spend on players, wages, transfer fees, and comparing them to Liverpool and Arsenal. Spurs have spent more. They spend a bigger percentage of their revenue than those clubs do. We spend apart from, well, I think actually we were top of the league, I think, in terms of spend in the last 3 years. We were top of the league in the last 3 years. So
More than Chelsea?
we didn't put Chelsea in there. We didn't put Chelsea in there. So actually hold that for. But anyway, we were very high up, more than Liverpool and more than Arsenal, right?
Yeah.
So there has been a level of financial backing. They're saying, look, continue that. We've got to fix this squad and we will get you there. But I feel like they've done everything. They've spent the money. They've said we want to win a trophy. They brought in a pragmatic manager. And people are still really angry. And they've won a trophy, really importantly, about them. But I get it. The league performances were terrible to sit through. But they've delivered on everything they said and that everyone asked for. They've given everything. And yet people are still like, this isn't good enough. It's all sanitized. He didn't mean it. But I'm kind of like, well, of course it's sanitized. Any executive meeting like that is like, here's your script. Are you happy with it? I'm not sure about that word. Or if you say it like that, you're going to set yourself up for a failure. Of course there's that. But they have agreed on the underlying principles to win trophies, invest in the squad, and sign a manager who can compete on all fronts. That is what we want. I don't get, and bring in someone else to take over Levy's football decisions. We've done that. So I just feel like, for me, that is even more exciting than Frank in isolation, is the club moving to this phase where I think for the first time, we're actually going to be able to leverage the stadium's benefit and build a squad that can compete on all fronts.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, Vinay Venkatesan, I think I've mastered it now. He's obviously had a very immediate impact in terms of this strategy. It's going to be interesting because we thought that when Paratici came in initially and he was like having those one-on-one camera updates on things, that we kind of thought that was going to be a trend, but it didn't really materialize. It's going to be interesting to see how often we hear from Levy or other executives, so behind decisions and updates on things, because it's apparently something other clubs are a bit more used to, and certainly we've not been used to it for sure, to the detriment of everybody, including the board, I would say, because it's certainly not helped in terms of the reputation and stuff. But you're right. I mean, I think that it's when you look at the overall progress and the sort of the line graph of where we've come from in terms of expectations, fans' expectations, and just the reality of where we've operated in terms of our league positions over a number of years, and then what the reality was with keeping quality players, which just wasn't. We all remember selling Carrick and Berbatov and players like that, and then obviously the money for Bale and Modric was impossible to kind of turn down. We didn't have to sell Harry Kane, and we didn't sell Harry Kane for a long time. So that's evolved. Tottenham are taken more seriously from that point of view. I mean, there's still, I don't think we'll ever be in the sort of pantheon of Man United, who can still go out and tempt in really, really good big name signings, despite the mess that their club's in and despite the finish that they've had and all of the disarray they seem to be in. I mean, it is kind of nuts, isn't it, when you look at that superficially?
It's their history, though, isn't it? It's
exactly, that's
you've got to win titles for 20 years to build that up.
Yeah.
And unless something absolutely out of left field, like everyone's got a different definition of what success is, and I think some people's Spurs are challenging every year for trophies.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's probably the peak of what we can expect. Like that every year, Spurs, like even Liverpool can't do that. I've had blips, and they're brilliantly run. And I know they weren't as well run at Gillette when they had that blip.
Yeah.
But Chelsea, with all the money in the world being thrown at them endlessly, they have bad seasons. City are the only one that kind of seems to every year get it right, but they've got a cheat code. They've got a state backing them, and they've got a multi-club model where they've got 10 football clubs under their umbrella. That swallows 120 million a year in losses, and that gives them 10 scouting networks, 10 academies, 10 sets of coaches, all those benefits. We don't have that. So our pinnacle, I think if Spurs got to the point where I'm like, every 3 years we're winning a trophy, I think that would be pretty epic.
Yeah,
I think we've got to say, unless a massive influx of money and something dramatic change in the football landscape, that is probably the pinnacle of what we can expect under the current setup, right? And
I
that would be
suppose,
brilliant every 3 years to win a trophy.
and like you said, I mean, the Europa League is a bigger trophy than everything outside of the Champions League and the Premier League, in my opinion. I know the FA Cup, people will argue, and maybe they're right. It might be harder to win in a way, maybe because the competition, you've got all of those top English sides that are in the Champions League, and but you can luck out with the draws you get along the way, and which teams get knocked out by the teams. So I'm not really sure that's correct. Either way, what has also profoundly changed in the last month or so is that we finally have bagged that trophy. It's been a long, long wait, but now every member of the squad who's there, and maybe Walker Peters is about to change that statement, but they're all winners now. They've all tasted that. They've all done what it takes to get over the line. It wasn't a fluke. It was hard earned. And I suppose what you've been saying there about just the trajectory now and what it means and what's realistic for us to expect, and to be fair about things. I mean, like, I was as emotional as most of the next fan beside me, but with regard to the Ange decision, and it wasn't the decision I would have made, but I do think that there is a strong argument for the decision that was made. And I think the fact is, it also is in tune with what you're talking about in terms of, okay, getting to the next stage. Ange did get us the trophy, but if we want to win the Premier League and the Champions League, we need consistency. Now, the thing is, we've appointed somebody who's never operated on that level, let's be honest. And that's, I suppose, the risk when it comes to Thomas Frank. But there's an awful lot of his character traits and evidence with what he's done consistently over the last 5-6 years in the Premier League that there's a reasonable basis to feel that he can deliver a higher level with better tools available to him, as it were.
Yeah. And I think we're all going to have different perceptions of what success is going to look like under this era. But if you could take the option now of saying you stick with Frank 3 years and you've got 2 trophies in there, you're a League Cup and an FA Cup and a top 4 finish. I think I'd be like, brilliant. Then that lays the foundation. I think there is a world in which Spurs do win more, but the only way that happens is the whole structure of the club takes another level up, and that is from serious investment coming in. And we don't know what the future holds, but I'm just saying under this current setup. But should we jump on to some members' questions, Johnny? Because we're a little behind the pace, and there's some great questions from Roston. There's a point from Gav, Sean the Gooner Slayer, Johnny L, AJP. So Roston said, should listening to Frank speak plus the interview of Daniel Levy and Vinay Venkatesham help to allay the persistent fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there? Personally, I feel like Levy has been working the plan all along. It's just more complex and long term. Maybe it's just about timing. Having brought in the right people and having the financial setup to compete against those who had the legacy benefits or are being doped. Man United and Man City being one example of each. Had the money in Ferguson, Man United benefiting from Ferguson still, yeah. The cracks have been shown because they've not had the right people in the right places. He had that one for Stu, but Stu can't join us. I do. Do you agree, Johnny? Do you think it was a case of doing all the right things off the pitch, but just not having the right people in the club have led to underachievement?
Well, that's interesting. We've seen Donna Cullen leaving, and then the minute she leaves, we've got a different sort of style of PR immediately with the new CEO. I mean, I know that's not primarily he's not about PR, but there's a shift there, like we've already been discussing. I mean, probably the manager is the most important player, is the most important position to get right. And Levy did appoint someone who finally won us a trophy. So, I think there was a lot of really bad decisions made with appointments over the years. And clearly, the player recruitment, which we've talked about so many times before, there have been so many shocking, especially probably under the Pochettino era, strangely enough, especially once the DOF wasn't there. That was a horrendous sort of decision. But I think that lots of things have improved over the last 2 years or so. And it's obviously a huge call to change the manager now. At least you can argue, even if you may not have been in favour of it, Levy is making the board apparently are making a brave decision with the change of the head coach. And they have looked at a lot of, you hear in the video between Venkatesh and Levy that, there's all of the different aspects that they were looking for in the manager. And Thomas Frank makes a lot of sense. So we'll just have to reserve judgment on that. But it's clearly, you're only as good as the team around you, aren't you, in any sphere of work. And whatever the organisation is, I suppose the bigger the organisation, the bigger the expectations and pressures, and maybe the more key in some ways the getting those right is. But I think that there's a lot to be hopeful for now.
I think so too. You've got to think how much the football landscape's changed with when ENIC took over, right? We were winning more trophies, but the league performance was inconsistent and typically around mid-table, basically. But the Chelsea, what I'm trying to get to is Liverpool and Man United were light years ahead. Like it wasn't even a conversation. And they're still ahead, but they're no way near as far ahead as they were. We've definitely caught loads of pace on them. Then we've flown ahead of the clubs that are around us, like Everton, West Ham,
exactly.
Villa. If you rule out the last 3 years, there's no question. Over the last 20, we've been by far the more dominant side.
Yeah.
And then City and Chelsea rock up with sports washing as a concept, and that just changes the football landscape. There's nothing you can do unless you also get that injection to stop that. Newcastle now as well. We've done well in the concept that 3 new massive rich clubs, apart from Liverpool and Man United, get added to that list, and we somehow stay relevant in that conversation. The frustration has been we're always taking a 10-year plan. They're taking a 2 or 3 year plan because they can accelerate their plans much more quickly. But it does feel like the structure's there now to take us 2 steps forward. I do want to drop in what Gav's theory as well, who's a business journalist, and he said he looked at the Vinay and Levy interview differently because there were rumours that Levy was going to step down. And it's related to that. He said, often as a new man comes in at the top of a business, there's a real effort to show them with an established outgoing boss. Reason for that is to pass some of the goodwill and trust in the existing boss onto the incoming person. As an example, one global firm I deal with lots saw their president move upstairs to the global leadership team. Their EMEA MD became president. I knew it was coming because for a year I'd seen them together at events, on stage, doing interviews, suddenly acting like close pals and bringing this other person effectively, and I'm saying is elevating this other person onto the stage with them. With Vinay and Levy, fans might see it as Vinay trying to bolster Levy with his reflected goodwill among fans, but it might just be the real audience is debtors and investors who trust and admire Levy, and so it's his high status being shared with Vinay. And he makes the point, he goes on to say, whenever you see something, your automatic human instinct is to think, this is about, how do I see this? Because this is for me. This video is for me. It's not for, it might not be for you, but you've still got an opinion and you're allowed to watch it and have a reflection on it. But you might not be the real target audience. You might just be just a part of that, a natural viewer of that, but you may not actually be the... So anyway, I thought that was an interesting one for food for thought.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Sean the Gooner Slayer, legend of course, says, with Levy saying we are going for the Prem and Champions League, is this just the final phase? 25 years ago, we were a mid-table cup team slowly built in a club that challenged for the top 4. We couldn't attract top players back then until 10 years ago. We couldn't keep top players, Bale, Modric, etc. We can now keep our top players. So are we finally ready to win, Johnny?
Well, we just did, didn't we? So
we just did that.
Do you know what I mean? Though that's the point. That is the point. It's like Frank is the sort of unknown because we didn't win with him. But we have a squad full of players who are winners now. And having the trophy-winning mentality is something that we've completely lacked, has been totally absent for a very long time. So, we've been getting rinsed on social media for just as long in terms of, being the end of all the jokes. And now it's like Arsenal trying to troll Spurs, and the Spurs fans just coming back with "War a trophy" every time, which is quite funny and it's quite sweet actually. After all of that, I mean, you could argue that did Tottenham have a better season than Real Madrid last year? Well, maybe they did because Real Madrid didn't win anything either. So I think that's the point that right to be asking. It's like what we aim, and it's exactly what you were talking about a few minutes ago, Jim. We want to be consistently operating at a level where we're challenging, and just by virtue of the level of the competition that's out there and all the circumstances around that, where we aren't operating with the same advantages of certain other clubs, it's not going to be possible to just be winning pots left, right, and centre. I mean, Real Madrid didn't win anything this season. Arsenal didn't win anything again for like the 5th or 6th year in a row, and Man City didn't win anything last
Klopp
season
as
either.
well. His brilliant era.
Exactly.
Was it like 3 trophies? Was it in the end?
I think so. Yeah.
I know, and that was. Imagine if we had an era like that.
Yeah, I know.
Like playing brilliant football, Mo Salah, all these brilliant players in their prime.
Mm-hmm.
But when the machines of Man City exist around you, and Real Madrid and Barcelona and Liverpool and Chelsea and Man United, who've all these ambitions to win and dominate football as well.
Exactly.
It's just not. I think you've got to look for what success is is numerous things. It's not one thing. And the one bit of success that will bring you the most immediate enjoyment and will live with you the longest is a trophy. But there are other small successes you are welcome to enjoy along the way. An academy player breaking through to the first team and scoring the winning goal in a North London derby to ruin an Arsenal fans' weekend. That's a win, but that's a moment for me. That's totally. I deem as success.
Yeah,
it's all different measurements. Johnny L says, which, if any, Brentford players do you think we may target? Also, how many games grace does Frank get from our fan base?
Oh, because there's a lot of chat about, I don't know, I've never fact checked it, but talking about how he started so poorly at Brentford in his first season in the Championship, and then the same thing happened in Brøndby as well. So I don't know, like we hearing some pretty alarming people referring to that. So if that happens at Tottenham, good luck to Thomas Frank. It's not going to be easy, because whatever goodwill is remaining after the trophy triumph and everything, he's going to be on the back foot from the beginning. So I really hope for his sake that it doesn't happen. Poor old. It's not going to be easy. I think that he's going to have to be absolutely shocking to not get through at least an entire season. The joy is he's coming in with an entire summer to prepare. He's hit the ground running and has started and has met players. Yesterday we saw him, Madders and Dragusin, etc. Yesterday or the day before, it's good that he's got all of that time. He's going to be involved with all the transfer decisions. We've got the Tell signing that he was very much involved with and was talking about directly, his excitement about that. So I think that he will start better at Tottenham. And the fixture list is relatively forgiving, I think, for Spurs, coming out yesterday morning or the morning before. And I think he should be okay in terms of getting through those initial challenges. There's nothing too horrendous too soon. But yeah, I don't know. I think in terms of what was the first part of Sean's question again, talking about?
It was Johnny's question. It was
Johnny, sorry, about Brentford players.
Yeah, if we sign any.
See,
which one?
Because of Zimbumu doesn't seem to be very likely, does it? And from your discussion with Joe the other day, it's like it seems to he's pretty much set on United, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, from my talk to journalists recently,
yeah,
pretty much all of them have made it out that it's pretty unlikely we're going to sign any. I'll just say that on the time. Brentford don't need the money. The players aren't particularly itching to leave. If we offer over the odds, we would get them. But there's other options out there which are better value for us. Because the other thing is Frank does an excellent job of elevating the value of players and selling them on at the peak. So he knows, is the theory, if you buy that player, that's them maxed out. Can we go buy someone 2 players half the value that I will max out to that level as well? Which kind of makes sense, right?
The one player, selfishly, that I would love us to sign is Nathan Collins, not just because he's Irish. I mentioned him ages and ages ago when he was maybe at Wolves then or Burnley. And he's somebody who played football with my son when I was like 10 years old. So I'd love Nathan Collins to join because I know his dad, and it would just
dad?
it would be the coolest thing. His dad was played for Liverpool back in their glory days. He would have been more of a reserve player. We played Oxford United.
Hey, get him on the pod. Let's get him on.
Get Dave on the pod.
Yeah.
So I'll do my best.
I think that'd be do you know what I think would be a really cool pod? What's it like being the parent of a Premier League footballer?
Yeah.
Because
okay, well, I'll see what I can do.
I'm just imagining being sat in the crowd.
I know.
When the guy next to you is calling your son a whatever.
Well, this is I was at a game, and I can't remember if I said this before. My mate Scotty that works at a club that I better not name, but I was at a match back in March.
The Irish Paratici, Johnny. All these contacts. Get the phone back.
We were sitting in the players' parents' area at this game, and it was a really important game, and it's a League 2 side, but Scott was saying to me, wherever you do, just be careful with what you say and how you react. It was so difficult when somebody was playing an absolute shocking pass or something like that, and you're every instinct is to just respond in a vocal way. Certainly in my case, but that could be the mum sitting right in front of you. You think, okay, so yeah, it's true when you think about it. You wouldn't normally think about that sort of thing, but I'd love Nathan Collins. I mean, to be honest with you, I actually think genuinely, and there's quite a lot of people would agree with me, and then there's a lot of people, as always, who would think that I'm talking garbage. He's already the most expensive player in Irish transfer history in terms of a single transaction. Yeah. Now Robbie Keane.
How much was he? Robbie Keane was
mid-20s. So he moved around from season to season. Stoke was where he started, and then he was there from sort of 17 up till maybe 1920. Then he went to Burnley. I think he was with them in the Championship, and then they got promoted, and he's had a season with them. Then they got relegated, and went to Wolves, and he had a year with Wolves, and then he went to Brentford 2 years ago. So he's 24 now. But he's a really good player. He's centre half. He's more on the right. He was a midfielder. Could be a CDM, to be honest, as well as he's a really good ball player. He's not the quickest, really good aerially, and he's the Irish
The
captain.
thing is his pace, isn't it?
He's not the quick. No, he's not the quickest, but he's really intelligent. And one thing I like about him is he also is somebody who, from being even as a teenager, he was like telling really established players like Ben Mee and stuff where he needs to be standing, like the confidence he has in himself. And he's a really a lovely guy. He's not massive ego, but he just has so much confidence and so much intelligence and interest, passion for the game. And it's not a surprise he's the Irish captain now. He's the Irish captain 23. He probably will be for the next 10 years, I would imagine. So I think his value could definitely still go up. I don't imagine we will sign him, but I think I'd love it if we did.
Nepotism.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm being completely objective.
Right. Nathan Collins then, Johnny.
Yeah, I'll take Nathan.
Johnny L is your answer. And you've got a 5-minute recording now on 32 reasons why. And it's nothing to do with him being Irish.
No.
It's nothing to do with it from the man in Dublin. The AJP gave
to be sure.
What player do we think is going to excel the most under Thomas Frank? This is a good one.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take a pause and think of this one because I didn't actually think of an answer for this one before. I think I know. What's yours?
I'm gonna go with Matisse Tell.
Okay.
I'm sort of torn between him and the doggy because I think there's so many players. I mean, you got Gray and Berval. They're all like really kind of not necessarily obvious, but because, like you said, he's so good with developing youth. What I love about the Frank appointment is we saw Postecoglou playing players who never would have got a game, like Lucas Bergvall, who developed so much last year, maybe our player of the season. How many minutes would he have got under Conte, let's be honest? And Thomas Frank at least is the same kind of manager, and he needs to be. So there are so many young players he can develop. I really like the idea of Matisse Tel because it's based more on my normal direction of emotion, because I think there's a lot of there was so much excitement around his signing back in January, and then it didn't take too long before that turned to really serious doubt about whether we should be splashing out and locking him in permanently. But I think that his words about Tell when he was signed permanently at the beginning of the week or the end of last week suggest that he's really excited about him. And what I really like to hear as well is about his goal scoring, because we've done quite well in having lots of goals from all over the pitch, which has been necessary with Solanke not hitting as many as we'd have hoped. So I think that Tell, especially in unleashing what sets him apart, and Adiber's got the same kind of thing too. I really hope that it's him, because I think he's got an insane ceiling potentially, and I hope that we're going to see a bit more of that and prove those doubters and quieten them down a bit.
Bring back Tim Sherwood as manager, and this player would still excel at Lucas Bergvall. I think he's just going to go from strength to strength as long as he plays. I think Tell's a great shout, but to be different, I'm going to say a bit of a left field one in a way. I think Kulusevski is going to save his career. And that is because Frank Strike, well, we know he's the type of manager who likes versatile players who do multiple things for him.
Yeah.
And I think Kulusevski, he's not going to be simply told you're a winger today or you're a 10 today. I think because we're not really sure what Kulusevski is. He's good, but his strengths don't align with one particular role. I think Frank's the type of guy who will say, I can almost invent a role for you based on your strengths, and it's going to be this thing. It's going to be the semi-10 winger thing. And when we've got these types of games, no one's going to know how to stop you because you're going to be a unique weapon in my armory. That's why I think that'll be my left foot option. But I think Tell's a great shout, and Bergvall is an obvious one. That's it, Johnny. We wrap up. We'll get the whole crew back together next time if you're used to the whole crew. But it's just a busy holiday season, and it's hard to get everyone back together.
I might be missing Monday. If we're doing Monday, I will not be there because I'll be out scouting Mason Melia playing for St. Pat's Athletics. So I'll give you a little update on that if
Nice. Well, looking forward to that. Maybe we'll do the pod on Tuesday and we talk about that as well.
Cool.
We'll figure it out.
Nice one.
Up the Spurs, Johnny.
Come on, you Spurs.